What is going on, blockchain community? Welcome to Ethereum Hot and Spicy number 8. It's the usual crew today, smiling faces of me and Billy, but our special guest, Mr. Joe Burnett, is back in action after building his bike trails, so we're happy to have him. So today's topic, I think it's kind of pertinent with, blockchain New York happening, and a lot of people are talking about just blockchains in general right now. There's Ethereum, there's Near Protocol has some events going on, and a few others. So we thought we would take today to kind of just talk about what it takes to run a layer 1 blockchain, who's currently crushing the game, Ethereum, and then who are some of the other people who are starting to show up, and just kind of spitball from there. Do you guys want to add to that or do introductions at all?
Yeah. So earlier in the week, there was the Ready Layer 1 event that was kind of a collaboration between all of the major Layer 1 protocols. So it was like Near, Polkadot, Cosmos, Ethereum, obviously. It's kind of weird because they did a poll and they're like, which Layer 1 protocol are you building on? And they listed everyone except Ethereum. And like all the results were like super divisive. And then all the comments were like, where is Ethereum? We're all building on Ethereum. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to come out of the gate swinging saying Ethereum's the best, but these conversations are arising. People are they're rolling out these more legitimate layer 1 protocols. Like I would not consider EOS or Tron or any of these other kind of or IOTA as like legitimate layer 1 protocols, but now you're starting to see the emergence of things that have like real technical prowess and like they're introducing like new interesting technical features. So the conversation is a little bit more interesting and legitimate now. So could be a cool topic to focus on today.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that because before, Joe does his spiel was, I think it would be unfair if they added Ethereum to that poll. Because, I mean, let's be real. That's currently where everyone's at. And if they were like Ethereum, it would just be too one-sided. So I give them some leeway.
That makes sense. Yeah. It would be.
They could have framed the question: which protocol besides Ethereum are you working on? Because, I mean, I got to imagine, that like 95 to 99% of the answers were going to be Ethereum. But yeah,
you're right. They should have phrased it different. Anyway.
All right. Well, anyways, before we poo-poo on everyone else, let's just get into it a little bit. Joe, do you want to do a quick introduction or do some spiel on what you got thinking? No, okay, layer 1. No intro for Joe.
I don't have much. I am unapologetic Ethereum maximalist, so I have not spent a ton of time on digging into too many other coins. I believe too much in the legitimacy of Ethereum and the pace that Ethereum is being developed at, that I have not spent adequate effort researching any competitors, if you will, or alternative layer 1 blockchain protocols. So I'm not going to have a ton to contribute, but I'll do some fact checking in the background, and I'll chip in where I can.
Joe,
cool. Sounds good.
Can you show off your beer before we get started?
Yes, I have a wonderful local New Hampshire beer.
Nice.
Full clip, supporting nice local. And hazy.
Thinking global, supporting local.
This podcast was originally going to be named Proof of Drink, right? So
that is true. Fine.
Billy's got a drink.
I got a drink.
We decided we couldn't get drunk every day in a weekday and on with the podcast.
Well, when I bike, I can have a beer. That's my rule for myself. So I bike today. I'm having a beer.
All right. Fair enough. So let's get started before we bore the people with our beer talks. Not that it's not interesting. I do kind of love our shenanigans. But I think we should rank a little bit like what we got going on with protocols coming out. Because, we have Polkadot, we have Near, we have Tezos, we have Cardano, and then we have this really bad one that everybody
Cardano doesn't
love. What?
Cardano doesn't count.
I don't know. So let's just name the things. And we can talk about this. And then we have this one called Tron that I think everyone ubiquitously just like
maybe
does not like.
Can we start at like rattling off all of the previously launched layer one protocols, like the EOS and the Trons and the IOTAs and the Cardanos of the world, and just kind of going through why, you know, why they haven't really seen any significant traction, and why we might be skeptical of them?
Sure. I mean, if you want to rattle them off, I feel like you just did, but
I just
yeah, you
did.
want to go deeper?
Yeah. So back in, I guess, the last kind of, I'd say, bull run and the wave of the launching of these protocols, the big topic of debate and discussion was scalability. So every protocol was just like, we can do hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. Ethereum can only do this many. And so that was like the selling case for everyone. It was like scalability. And the way that these other protocols got scalability was by sacrificing either decentralization or security, or just like anything. Like IOTA was offline for like weeks, so like liveliness at all. So yeah, the whole point of what we're doing here is decentralization, and in a world of, or like a computing system that is decentralized, you're naturally sacrificing scalability for like decentralization of the network. And of course, if you operate on something like a proof of authority chain, where you have 21 different network validators, you can achieve higher throughput. But you can kind of do the exact same thing that these other layer one protocols were doing on like layer two Ethereum, while still retaining layer one security if you're building a layer two chain. So basically, the sales pitch for all of these old layer one protocols was increased transaction throughput. Wasn't really a legitimate use case or a business case, because you can do the exact same thing on layer two Ethereum. And that's all I really have to say there. And a lot of these companies raised obscene amounts of money, like haven't really done too much. We haven't seen very much adoption of any of them. There's not really, I can't name a single major DApp. Maybe it's because I don't follow these other things too closely, but I don't really see any major dApps being talked about or built on any of them. I don't know, Kames or Joe, if you're familiar with any, but that's kind of where I stand.
Hell yeah, I gamble all the time on Tron, throwing out all my dice DApp, baby. Let's roll those digital dice. No, I think you're right. Mostly, it comes down to network effect. A lot of what blockchain is the more users they have, the more that you can actually get done. And without those users and without that community, there's not really that network effect. And blockchain is definitely something that, is impacted by that. So I think, that's a lot of good context. Mainly, a lot of these people are like, hey, we're going to scale before Ethereum does, because Ethereum has all this legacy. But lo and behold, like, scaling wasn't as important as community. So, here we are.
To add to that a little bit, I know for a fact that a lot of those attempts at new layer one protocols were just money grabs. People were mad that they either like missed out on the Ethereum pre-sale or just wanted to make more money, and they were just an attempt to try to launch something that could make them a bunch of money. Like I heard it from some of those people themselves. I'm not gonna like name names, but that was why you saw so many of these like new layer one protocols launching.
Yeah, I can chip in and agree with that. I think the reason, and I guess I'm sort of jaded about Ethereum alternatives, because I saw so many early on, basically what I would amount to, a copycat that was just trying to money grab. They'd have a huge fundraise. They'd offer the same thing, but either less decentralized than Ethereum, or less, less secure, or or basically a for lack of a better word, like a worse product. As I don't know how spicy we need to get the Hot Takes podcast today, but
we're getting real spicy.
It's still early. But anyway, I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of and I didn't have to look too far past the founders of those projects to know, just looking at the founders and their record, or the founders and their motivations, and it wasn't too hard to see that they were they were in it because they see a lot of opportunity in the cash grab. And I mean, honestly, that's one of the reasons I love Ethereum, is because Ethereum was created not for a cash grab, but because of the, I want to say that like the philosophical nature, or the sort of decentralized beliefs. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but the set of values that go along with Ethereum is something that I really like
Yeah.
match with. And I saw Vitalik sort of as somebody that was obviously, nobody thinks Vitalik is in this for the money. I mean, he has, tons of it now, and I don't know how much is. Every time I've seen him, he looks the same as he did in the first video I've ever seen him in, and he talks the same way. He has the same enthusiasm about the tech. He cares a lot about changing the world and changing, paradigms with this new technology, and he is definitely not in it just for the
Yeah.
cash.
And I want to piggyback off of that and say that is why I am such a Vitalik maximalist and an Ethereum maximalist, is because like when the Ethereum pre-sale was like the terms were being debated, I like spoke up at a meetup and was like, hey, like maybe you should structure it in a different way if you want to like maximize investor interest, because this doesn't there's no risk being put on the team. Like people are investing, and like the founders and the original foundation is not taking on like really any risk, and they're just getting basically all this money for free. And Vitalik basically said, I don't I don't care if people invest. He's like, if you want to build stuff on Ethereum, you're going to need Ether to pay gas costs. So if you want to develop stuff on Ethereum, you should buy ETH in the pre-sale. Like that was it. He wasn't like looking for investor money. He was looking for developer money. He was like, hey, you want to build stuff on here? Just buy some ETH, and then you can build stuff on Ethereum. And I was just like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, this guy, he does not care about money at all. Take all my money. Which wasn't a lot at the time, unfortunately. But yeah, that's really what sold me.
Dope. All hail Lord Vitalik. Just kidding. Well, maybe not really. Okay, so I do want to keep it. I do want to keep us on topic though a little bit in terms of like just making sure that we're talking about other protocols, because yes, we all love Ethereum. Cool, fantastic. But I think there are some other very interesting things that are happening on these other protocols that would be worthwhile to look at, and kind of maybe we can gauge on like what that impact is going to be on like, is the tech important? Like if the community gets up to speed with the tech, or is community always going to outweigh tech and that sort of thing. And so I think where I would like to start, and maybe, Joe, we can really riff on this a little bit, is like what's happening at the lower level of how you write smart contracts. So if you're an Ethereum developer, you know that you write smart contracts in Solidity, and that gets piled down to bytecode, and you upload that to the chain. But what you're seeing in a lot of these other protocols is the ability to compile down to WASM. And if you don't know what WASM is basically WebAssembly, and it allows you to write any code, like your code in any language. It could be JavaScript, it could be Rust, it could be Go, it could be any of those. And then that compiles down to WASM, and then that gets deployed onto the chain. I know Polkadot's using this. Near Protocol uses WASM. So I guess my question is like, that seems to be a big appeal for maybe enterprise people or people who don't want to learn Solidity, but already know all these other languages. They can quickly write what they know and then write smart contracts and then launch to the chain. So like, I don't know, do you guys think having these nice to have and these good developer experiences like will make a difference as blockchains start to ramp up? Or will people just be like, who cares? I'll learn Solidity anyways and get over it and kind of continue to just use Ethereum because that's where everyone's at. Billy or Joe?
Joe, any hot takes?
I don't have a lot of hot takes around that. Like I said, I am woefully ignorant about a lot of what's going on in other languages. I do think compiling down to WASM is awesome, and it's a pretty solid, it's a really good idea. It definitely is a legitimate like thing that blockchain should be doing now, because it seems to be more and more of a standard around it and around compiling down to it. We're going to see it running in web browsers and all over the place. So yeah, that's all I can really offer. I don't know. I have not done any research into this stuff, so I can't speak to it deeply.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's like seriously being talked about in the Ethereum space. Like we've got EWASM and stuff, and I think it's important, but I don't think that that is going to be make or break for any protocol. I don't think like just um, incorporation of traditional, like let's say Web2 languages to write smart contracts. I don't think that's going to make or break a protocol, especially as Ethereum kind of accommodates more and more traditional Web2 languages.
So I'm going to hot take that.
Let's hear it.
So my hot take on that is actually I disagree in the long run. I think right now Ethereum enjoys the market effect of being sort of the go-to de facto place for running smart contracts. And it's not a huge deal, that solidity that you would need to write your contracts in a different language. But I think that it eventually once this technology starts to permeate our global culture, so to speak, I guess, once we get more and more used to the things that like just the integration of blockchain technology in our daily lives, it's just happening around us. Things are on the blockchain, things are on different blockchains, whatever. I think we are going to see the need for more applications being run on blockchain, and therefore more developers developing blockchain code. And I think that Solidity, having a language, a specific language like Solidity as a barrier to getting your code on a major blockchain, it might actually be a market effect thing that causes Ethereum to lose its market effect, so to speak, in the blockchain programmable blockchain space. So I think like right now we're fine, but I think that we do need to make sure that we're thinking about like we need Go developers, we need Java developers, we need whoever. If you can write your code in a language you're comfortable with, and it can compile down to the code that runs on a blockchain, that's the most important thing. So yeah, I think like EWASM is pretty important, and I think that So I don't want to discount the fact that there's other paradigms that are being invented as we speak. I think that those could become pretty powerful in the future.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I would say, I tend to agree with you, Joe. And I think if Ethereum doesn't keep up with like the developer experience, and for whatever reason, we just think like, oh, community is going to last us forever, I think, we would be in a real risk of like potentially losing a lot of people. Because like you said, once it reaches a certain critical mass and blockchain is on a global scale, it really comes down to developer experience at that point and preference, because people who are going to be introduced aren't going to necessarily share these core Ethereum values as everyone else. They're not going to be in it to basically want to change the world and like know who Vitalik is. They're just like, oh, I want to use my stack and I want to connect to the blockchain. And so I think, definitely in a couple of years, if like we don't keep up, there is that risk for, losing out to people who are like, I want to write and Go. And then I want to deploy that to like wherever.
I think that raises a point that I want to touch on a little bit though, which is I think Ethereum's main, like, I think the thing that's going to make it succeed the most, sure, community, but I think it's agility and flexibility. So as soon as another protocol has a good idea, Ethereum is like, oh, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Like Definity, the biggest thing, like the biggest advancement that I saw with Definity was like the random beacon. And like we saw that and we're like, oh, inherent like random number generation, like true random number generation to select validator pools, that's like a significant thing that we should like consider. And so we saw Definity do it, then we did it, and now we have Beacon Chain. And so like as these things that are kind of like large, I guess, improvements to the tech come about through these other protocols, I think we're just going to see Ethereum adopt the best ones. And I really hope that Ethereum can retain its flexibility and agility. And we have so far. But yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest reasons why I'm personally bullish, because Ethereum just kind of keeps evolving.
Yep. Well said. I hope that's the case, but I think, if we have enough infighting with all the protocols and like ProgPow slows us down forever, and if we never move past ProgPow, who knows, we could be at a serious disadvantage.
We got to get those ProgPow people on here. I really want to have that conversation with people who actually know what they're talking about.
Hey, are you saying we don't know what we're talking about?
Definitely not.
Big brain time, big brain. Cool. So do you guys want to keep talking about this, or do you want to switch over a little bit to possibly a new hot topic?
We didn't even hit on any of the new protocols. Maybe we do that a
so
little bit.
I was gonna say, let's go back to that was kind of what I wanted to get back to a little bit, was like, so these protocols exist. We could rattle off all the ones that you wanted to rattle off, Billy, but I would like to maybe propose that, like, I don't know what we think is like the top three or like the potential competitors, because, for me, there's a couple that stand out and a couple that I'm just like, oh, that's never going to happen.
I like it.
Spicy. And to my knowledge and, kind of, just the momentum and maybe the money they have, I'll go ahead and maybe name a few that I really think serve some potential. Whether they'll dethrone Ethereum, I don't know. But from what I can tell, it's definitely going to be like Polkadot is launching real soon. And they obviously have Gavin Wood, who originally started with Ethereum, is well known for like coding when Vitalik could not. Gavin was like the original coder. And then we have Near Protocol, which I'm just now learning a lot about, doing the Gitcoin hackathon. But I've also heard there's been a lot of like cross-pollination of ideas between the Near Protocol team and the Ethereum developers, and like doing proof of stake. And then beyond that, actually, like, I don't know. I don't really have much confidence in the other ones, but I know besides that, Billy, do you kind of see any else on the horizon that?
I think the other main contenders are Cosmos, Definity, and Tezos, and I guess Filecoin to some extent, but like it seems like that's just kind of just a supplemental thing to Ethereum and all these other layer ones. So they're like adjacent, but also in the field of play. But yeah, I want to echo like the fact that Gavin Wood, I'm actually a big fan of Gavin Wood. I think he's great. So that's why I'm super bullish on Polkadot generally. Tezos, I think that it has been a good proving ground. And I don't mean to go like super granular into my opinion on each one already, but I will a little bit. So Tezos, I think it's been a really good proving ground for proof of stake for like a major layer one protocol. So they were the kind of the ones that have like pioneered that in like a real high net worth chain environment. We also have like Kadena, which is like I think a lot less well known. But their whole thing was like they wanted.
Wait, what did you just say? Cardena or Cardano?
Kadena.
Oh, okay.
Kadena.
Okay.
They're ex JP Morgan guys. They like started the JP Morgan blockchain team like before Quorum and stuff. They quit to start Kadena a while ago. Met them in Palo Alto. They just launched mainnet a few weeks ago, I think. But they're all about like formal verification of smart contracts. So they're really cool. And they have this like chain web thing that's like extremely scalable. So I think they're another one to look out for. But yeah, then you have like Cosmos and Polkadot are competing for like the cross chain operability play. And then Definity, I was really bullish on Definity, but it's been delayed. I don't know what they're doing, and they're operating completely behind the scenes, and they did a private crowd sale and they're doing proof of stake, so it's like seeming more and more like centralized, and I'm like losing faith in Definity, honestly. And then what else? And then Near, I've really actually only heard good things about, and I think they have a really strong technical team. And I think we as Ethereum have a decent amount to learn from them. But yeah, I think in my mind that like that's the that's the playing field right now. Is there anything that I kind of missed?
Nope. You named a bunch. That was like a couple more than I've ever heard of. But what did catch my ear that I think is kind of interesting is you
I
mentioned
missed one.
No, go ahead. Okay, fine.
Blockstack.
Okay, Blockstack. Yes,
Yeah,
Blockstack.
that's it.
Can't forget present Blockstack. And we have one other that we didn't mention. I think the Binance chain. They announced
That doesn't count, dude.
Hey, you never know. They got a lot of users. What if they just like switch the network underneath everybody and they're like, oh, you're just using Binance now? Like, oh, what?
Good point.
So anyways, I want to bring up this topic because what caught my ear is you mentioned this like interoperability play. And so I think there's like a big distinction between people who are just trying to become a base layer, ready level one, ready layer one, becoming that layer one thing, or this hope and promise of being a tool to connect multiple blockchains and provide liquidity that way. And so it seems like there's going to be a difference in there. And I guess the question I want to ask is like, is there only room for one layer one? So like, is Ethereum going to take the entire layer one, or will like Near or some other of the protocols be able to, is there enough playing space for multiple ones? Or will there just be one big layer one and then a lot of like layer two kind of blockchains on top of it that are connected between Cosmos and Polkadot? Like, what does the topology look like in 5 years of public blockchains?
Joe, you got an opinion on that? If not, I do. So yeah, I don't know. And I think in kind of a technologically, I was gonna say in like a technologically optimal world, like each chain would have some amount of activity. But I actually, before I even knew who the Near guys were, I actually said this to them. They're like, oh, what do you think? They asked the same question. I was like, I think that the future is everything will use layer one Ethereum for security, and then like we'll have multiple chains at like layer two Ethereum, but it doesn't make sense to not have the security guarantees of layer one Ethereum. In my mind, it's like you can just roll out a layer two chain with any consensus mechanism you want and on any other rules that you want, and like still tie into layer one Ethereum for security. And so if the other chains can figure out how to tap into layer one Ethereum for security, then I can see things operating over there. But I just don't really see a need for all these different chains if Ethereum has sufficient throughput and scalability itself, and you can do this stuff on layer two Ethereum. So that's kind of my take on it, but I'm not really sure yet.
Yeah. I guess, my belief and my instinct, just like knowing how humans act and how tribalistic we can be, I'm going to just like go ahead and say, I think it might end up going region by region and like different parts of the world, just because of like how news spreads and like what prominent kind of like people sources of where they get their information are going to tend to lean towards one chain. Like, I know you kind of scoffed at Cardano, but like that's big in China and like the Asian regions, and a lot more people are using it over there. And I just have a feeling like that's going to happen with a few other segments. Like you're going to just have a certain segment of people who get their news from somewhere or have a certain amount of beliefs, and one chain may lean in one direction or the other. And it's going to be very independent. And then I think there's this other measure of like incentives. So, Near Protocol has this pretty interesting kind of smart contract layer incentive where it's like smart contract developers can get a percentage of the transaction that occurs on their network, as opposed to just miners who are getting transaction fees and being like, oh, if they support the network, they get all the money. And I think it's rather interesting to say if you build a popular dApp and you route transactions through that, you get rewarded for that somehow. And I think people maybe who aren't going to, want to revolutionize the world and disintermediate everybody are maybe incentivized a little bit more by the money part, and may find that more palatable for kind of like what they're trying to do. So I think it's really going to come down to like maybe location, and then also like what are your core values. And I think there is the potential to see that real split and to have like some major layer one chains kind of, handle a large chunk of the transactions.
Dude, yeah, I before I touch on like the protocol level royalty thing, I just want to go back to Cardano, and like Cardano is like Charles Hodgkinson or whatever, who like got removed from Ethereum and like also tried to like run Ethereum Classic for a while. So very, very bearish on Cardano generally.
But
But yeah,
wasn't Cardano also Mike Hearn, or am I miss?
oh, I don't know.
I think Mike Hearn was involved in Cardano early on.
Interesting.
Weren't you our fact checker, Joe? You were supposed to be the fact checker. You got to let us know.
Well, I might be wrong.
Let us know when you find it.
I will.
But yeah, I like generally the idea of that tribalism thing. Like we saw in the last wave of layer one protocols where it was like, you know, we had Neo. I forget. Fuck, Neo was big in China, and you had like EOS popular in certain regions, and yeah, you did see this tribalism emerge even when things were a little bit more nascent. So I think you're probably right. I think we will see like geographically distributed chains. That being said, like protocol level royalties, that is a near protocol thing, and I think that's so important. And I think we need an EIP as soon as possible around this topic. I actually posted in the consensus Slack. I was like, "Do we have anything?" And it looks like Mark Balin is saying that no EIPs around this exist yet. But basically, everyone's been trying to figure out how to like monetize their dApps and how to monetize their smart contracts. It's like, oh, there's all this like transparent open code. How do you monetize that? Well, what if like the near protocol proposal or what they're building is like, you, instead of just like the miners getting all, or the validators getting all of the transaction fees, what if the owner or the deployer of the smart contract gets some of those transaction fees? And I think that's just generally a really good idea. So I would love to maybe think about that a little bit more and get an EIP drafted up around it. Joe, I saw you unmute. Did you check out the Mike Hearn thing?
Oh, I did not mute.
Oh,
I never muted in the first place.
I gotcha.
I'm still looking into it. I think it might have been a different project. Oh, it was the R3 Corda.
Corda.
It sounded similar. Mike Hearn, not Cordana. That's fake news. Fake news. Make sure people know that. I don't want to be a source of fake news here in this podcast.
We're gonna grab that clip and just like make that the small YouTube clip that we post on
So
Twitter.
yeah, he was part of R3 Corda, which I believe is sort of a consortium blockchain project with large insurance organizations, but we can that's neither here nor there for I think what we're talking about today.
Yep. And Kames, so do you have any I know we just kind of like raised this topic today, but do you have any thoughts on like the protocol level royalty thing?
Meaning what? Just like how it would be done, or like what would be the incentives, or? I
guess like why do you think it would be important first, and then like maybe we could dive into a little bit of how we could do it.
At the fundamental level, I think it's going to be very difficult for some people to monetize their protocols. Like, for example, with Gitcoin, they've done an amazing job of like building a new market and like getting a bunch of developers, but they rely on people donating to basically fund what they're doing. Like, they're making money now with hackathons and like just bringing a lot of like using their community. But I think, a lot of people are really trying to figure out like, where do we make money on that? And so on that note, I think it is important. I think a part of me just wonders like why some contracts don't take a percentage of value of like Ether transferred in and just be like, hey, this is the fee that we're taking, or some level of that. Or I know that wasn't actually baked into Mark Balin's original bounty standard or open bounty standard. So like, maybe Kevin never had a chance to really think about that. But yeah, I think moving forward, if you're going to potentially build a popular dApp, you're going to have to build some way to profit off that. And it seems like transaction fees are the most viable, because like people are already submitting that transaction. They're already giving some value away. If you just increase the gas a little bit, that is not a big friction for them to start in that process. So for me, that seems the most viable.
I feel like if it's not protocol level rewards, like you're talking about kind of more application like smart contract layer rewards.
Yep.
I think that the issue you run into with that is someone just takes a fork of your thing, removes the transaction fee, and then everyone uses that fork. Unless like I think that was the initial worry of people, but I think we're seeing like typically the best UI is going to be built by the original team and the best support is going to be from the original
Yep.
team. And so people are more and more heavily, they're willing to pay like a small, I think they'd be willing to pay a small fee to have that good experience. But I think that was the initial worry because you just have like these market efficiencies that would drive that fee basically to zero.
Yeah, but then you have someone who can't support that app, and like when funding
Right.
goes away from the supporter, then that thing no longer exists. So it's like you cannibalize that from the get-go. So yeah, it may last for a second, but then it won't get, it won't last. And I guess my worry on the inverse is if you build it at the protocol level, then how do you build a public good that doesn't necessarily charge for stuff? Like if I want to
That's a
build
good point.
the Ethereum name system and I actually don't want my smart contract to get fees and I'm just building this as a public service, like then suddenly I'm charging things that I don't want. And so I think it makes sense at the application layer. And there also is some bad things if you do it at the protocol level, because then you always maybe get those fees. Or how do you decide that?
Yeah. And then it's like, then you get into this weird regulatory ground where nothing is neutral and everything's a business. And so
Yep.
like that's a revenue for somebody who
Yep.
and who is that somebody? And so that could be a weird legal battle that needs to be fought if everything is I don't know, man. That's interesting.
Yep. Yeah, and especially if you launch a smart contract anonymously and you're like, U.S. government's not going to be very happy if someone's avoiding taxes. They're going to come after you.
Yeah, I think you're right though. I like the. No, I was very very convinced on like the protocol layer way, but now maybe I think you maybe swayed me back to the application
Yes.
level a little bit.
Got him.
Joe, any hot takes on that? No hot.
Come on, Joe. Give us your hotness. We demand it.
You have your flaming sword handy.
Yeah, man. Show him the flaming sword.
Not today. I've done too many dangerous things today and gotten away with them. To do one more. I almost burned my house. I almost burned my house down last time I did that, and I played it cool on cam for you guys, but my house almost burned down.
Well, you played it off very cool, man. Cool as a cucumber.
That's my forte.
I got a good Instagram video of it. If that's worth anything.
Cool. Well, I got to keep this a little bit short because I got to hop off in a couple of minutes. But do you guys want to like exit with any predictions or any hot takes? Should we talk about like, because I know there's a bunch of protocols that are coming out now. Like I mentioned earlier, there's the Polkadots, there's the Nears, there's some of the others. Like, what's going to happen by the end of 2020? What's it looking like? We don't have to predict too far ahead of the future, but yeah. My top three seem to be Polkadot, Near, Cosmos. Those seem the most viable for something.
You can go next, Joe.
I'll go next. Yeah, I think we're going to see a BitConnect resurgence before the end of the year. And yeah, I think that's probably going to eclipse Ethereum at some point. But yeah.
All right.
No, but besides that, I don't know. I like, again, to reiterate, I don't know what I don't know. And I do know that I've always thought highly of Gavin Wood, and I know he's charging ahead with Polkadot. So I am not surprised at all to hear you say that and to see more faith being put behind that project. Yeah. So, and I don't know much about the others. So maybe we'll we'll come back to this subject in the future where I'm more knowledgeable. But for now, that's all I can say.
Cool. And I think well, like as soon as we kind of see like good bi-directional swaps, I think we'll probably see like the resurgence of Dogecoin as well, along with BitConnect. So I'm gonna probably buy up a bunch of Dogecoin in advance of that event. Not that I already have millions of Dogecoin, but I'm gonna scoop up some more. But yeah, generally
you have millions of Dogecoin, or you have millions in Dogecoin?
not millions of dollars in Dogecoin. I have millions of Dogecoins themselves, which is probably worth like a few $1,000s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that I I want to say I my gut reaction is like some of these protocols are going to get some sort of adoption because they do have now legitimate teams behind them and they have legitimate propositions. And so I think like my gut says yes, but what we keep seeing is these things get launched and then they just don't get any traction. And I like Tezos, like who's building on Tezos? I don't think anybody's building on Tezos. And they have like hundreds of millions of dollars to fund developers with. Like if they wanted, they could just like fund hundreds of projects, but still
That's
nobody's
why I think Tezos is a scam.
hot take.
Finally.
No, I've never liked Tezos. I don't know. I don't know. That all 8 of our viewers might get upset. One of them might be the Brightman people, but if whatever. I never had very high opinions of Tezos in the first place, or the motivations behind their
Definitely.
founders / crowd. How much money did they?
250 million way back whenever that was.
250 million. Like think about how many other. Yeah, no, we don't need to go down that road.
Yeah, I'm not a big Tezos guy either, but I do think that Tezos is probably gonna pump. I think Tezos is the new Cardano, because like you in the last bull run you saw Cardano go to like 20 billion mark. This is getting to weird territory. This is not financial advice. Disclaimer. You saw Cardano and all these other shit protocols pump. I think you're gonna see the same thing with Tezos. So I've actually been buying some Tezos because I think it probably see an easy 10x there. But who knows? Joe's shaking his head. Hot take on that?
Take
No?
the risk, man.
It's definitely a risk. Kames, do you have a hot take on that?
I'm in Ethereum all the way, baby. All the way.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, boy. Until someone else gives me a ton of protocols for building on top of their thing. Then, that tune may switch.
Near protocol, probably.
Hey.
Calling it now. But yeah, I think I don't see anyone really coming at the market with a strong enough value proposition to disrupt the network and market effects that Ethereum has currently. And so I think Ethereum will continue to remain dominant, even if we do see some slight adoption from some of these other protocols. And I think we're going to see Ethereum absorb some of these cool things that these other people are doing. Maybe not even just at the protocol level, but like Near website has like a nice little UI and it's like easily navigatable. And like maybe we can learn some stuff for ethereum.org from the Near website. I don't know. That's my thoughts.
All right. On that note, Ethereum, you better learn from Near Protocol.
Boom.
Anything else? So we're closing. Hot. All right. We're closing. Ethereum, hot and spicy.
Run the credits.
Run the credits, baby.